All right, welcome to another episode of 30 Minutes with dailystraits.com. Today we have a very special guest with us, Myles Bertrand, who is the Managing Director of Mambu Asia Pacific. Launched in Berlin in 2011, Mambu is a global fintech and market-leading software as a service cloud banking platform with offices in Sydney and Singapore. The company basically provides the engine for banks to build digital finance products on, whether that's an entire digital bank or just a single digital product, all built in the cloud. So today we're going to talk to Myles about the company's activities in Malaysia and Singapore. Hi, Myles. Thanks for joining us today. I've been told that you're actually in a hotel quarantine somewhere in Sydney. Is that right?
Yeah, I am, June. Thanks for having me today. It's a pleasure to be here. Yes, I've started my 14-day exodus and my luxury prison cell is probably the good way to describe it. But happy to be here today because it helps keep me busy and keep me focused. So it's good to be here.
Got it. Awesome. So let's dive right into the questions. So the first one, let's start with the basics. What is open banking?
I think open banking, it's actually been around, the concept has been around for quite a while, and it's well adopted in other markets such as Europe, but we're really seeing a trend towards open banking in markets like Australia and through Asia as well. I think the key concept around open banking is giving customers choice and the ability to move between banks or actually take up products and services with multiple institutions, but ensuring that they have the single view, the data is shared. So it's really about, again, increasing that customer experience, about giving them choice and options. And I think as we move more towards the digital age and a lot of organizations and consumers' expectations, open banking is really allowing the shared data to one, provide surety around things like fraud and anti-money laundering, for example, but also gives customers that flexibility of choice. So you've seen it be really successful with a lot of the new digital banks. And now we're seeing a lot of the tier ones and the larger banks embrace it as well. As customers' expectations on banking is just changing, the speed they want to work, how they want to interact with their bank and move to the sort of true digital experience.
Awesome. So I just wanted to ask you, what are some of the work that Mambu has been doing in Malaysia and Singapore? Maybe we could just start with Malaysia and then follow up with Singapore.
Yeah. I mean, so Mambu, we're 10 years old and we've sort of been in this space for a long time. Mambu is fundamentally an enabler of open banking, as an example. So we've been doing a lot and we were founded on really the principles of making banking better. Our founders came together because they really wanted to make financial services and banking technology more accessible, allow it to come at a lower cost to serve. So we could really drive things like financial inclusion, financial literacy. So that's a theme that we've had globally, and we've got a lot of customers in Africa, through the Middle East and Europe. But now in Asia, we've been working really in a lot of markets, Malaysia and Singapore have been some of them, but also Indonesia, Thailand, the Philippines, that really about bringing a different view to how banking technology can then serve those parts of the market. We also look very much around Sharia banking. There's a very, very big Islamic and Muslim population through Asia Pacific as well. So we've spent a lot of focus on those markets. And more recently, in Malaysia, we've been working very closely. We recently announced our partnership with Bank Islam, where they're a sort of a well-established, well-respected organization that's looking to do something a bit different and really drive a digital model to work with the broader population in Malaysia. And Mambu has partnered with them to be the enabler of that. So allowing them to launch something new, something which they can do much faster, a lot more flexibly, to really support not just their existing customer base, but also, as I mentioned, how can they help serve the underbanked, drive financial inclusion, and really change the face of banking in the Malaysian market in particular. And that is a trend that we're seeing right across the region. We're seeing a lot of activity with digital banks in both the Philippines, the recent digital bank announcements in Singapore. We've got them coming in Malaysia. They're going to be announced sort of Q1 next year. We're also seeing those trends in Vietnam and other markets as well. So it's a really exciting time for us because we really, as a next generation cloud banking, we're really seeing both new banks and old banks really want to move to that next generation of technology to allow them to provide a better customer experience and serve their customers better.
Awesome. So what about Singapore?
Yeah, I mean, Singapore's a very mature market. So we've been working with a number of the non-banks here as well. I think Singapore has been really at the forefront. They announced their digital licenses about 3 months or so ago. And they really, again, looked at bringing new entrants into the space as well. So you see the announcement where organizations like Grab, for example, really want to move beyond just transportation and food delivery. They're looking to offer financial services into the market and really drive that change as well. So you're seeing a real trend of not just banks and also organizations wanting to become banks. You're seeing a lot of organizations like a Grab, a lot of telecommunications companies we're seeing across the region that have, trusted, loyal customers. They really see the value of now offering financial services to those customers as well. So we see that as a real trend across the region as well.
So when you mean financial services, do you mean loans or actually day-to-day banking?
It's a combination of both, June. It's quite interesting. We've got a example of some customers. We have a customer in the Philippines, which is actually a very big telecommunications company where they have a very well-established customer base. They look after their mobile phone, but they said, well, I actually understand this customer really well. I'm actually quite prepared to offer them a micro loan. I'm quite happy to offer them a sort of a $500 or an $800 loan to, whether it be to buy an iPhone or whether it could be buy a piece of equipment, and then they can pay that back through almost like paying back their mobile phone bill. So we're seeing both micro loans and lending. We're also seeing the real trend. I think I saw a stat yesterday that almost 70% of the population in sort of the main countries through Asia have all used a digital wallet of some description over the past sort of 12 months. So you're seeing the real rise of people not just using your typical debit card or Visa card from a bank, but they're having actually stored value. They're having digital wallets that they can use. GrabPay, for example, was another really good example of that. So we're seeing really a diversification. They don't necessarily want to become full-blown banks, but they can see some value that they can offer from a financial services because they provide a great capability. They have loyal customers. They'd like to work with those customers and provide other capabilities as well.
Awesome. So is this right to say, like, if I team up with someone and I come to Mambu and say, look, I want to probably offer digital services in my business. So you would build the back end for us. Like, how do you determine which customers to work with? Do you have like a set of guidelines that you need to check and balance before you start working with them?
Yeah, we do obviously go through a qualification process every time we talk to a customer, but it's very much understanding. I think one of the real strengths of Mambu is that, we have a very incredibly diverse customer base as it is right now. So we have sort of very small microfinance businesses in Myanmar, all the way up to tier 1 banks in Europe and in North America, and all using the same Mambu platform. So we have a very scalable capability and a very flexible capability to support a number of different use cases. The thing that makes Mambu a little bit different is that we're not a end-to-end system as such. So we tend to work very collaboratively with the customer who may want to have developed their own banking app, or or may have wanted to create their own super app. So yes, we're the back end where they will create product, whether it be a loan, a wallet, a deposit, all the various types that I talked about before, but then we plug and play with them and work. I guess where we are a little bit different is because we're all driven by configuration as opposed to lots of heavy customization and engineering. It allows our customers to do things very, very quickly. So we have a lot of customers that start with one use case, but then very quickly they're actually launching other new products to their customer base because they have the ability to do that. But for us, the key thing is making sure we have a really strong cultural alignment with the organization. We really want to collaborate with them and really help make sure we're aligned with what their strategic roadmap is and what they're trying to do. And in some cases, we're not the right fit, I guess, because of our model and how we work. And we try to be really open and we have really good discussions with the clients about that.
Awesome. So can you tell me are these open banking systems susceptible to DOS attacks, like any kind of
Yeah.
kind of attacks? Like, and also when you work with these companies, do you provide tech support like forever,
Mm.
or is it?
Yeah, look, I mean, all software is open to some sort of attack, whether it's on-prem or whether it's in the cloud. People are always trying to break those sort of systems and break them down. I think the one of the great things about cloud technology is that it's becoming utilized with so many organizations that the learnings and the intellectual property and the robustness of those platforms now is incredibly mature. And so I think working very closely with our partners, our cloud providers such as AWS, is that we really make sure that we're meeting the best in class and best practice. And being a SaaS solution means we take a lot of that responsibility for our clients. So we're managing the infrastructure, we're managing the application, we're taking care of the security on their behalf, so they can actually focus on being a bank or being a microservice business or being a telecommunication. That's part of the value proposition that we bring to the table, is really learning how we support them, and that's part of a SaaS solution that we are, to your question, we're always supporting them, we're always there. So our philosophy is the customer becomes self-empowered to take control of using the platform day to day, but sitting behind that, we're always providing the oversight around security, scalability, robustness, making sure the lights stay on, really keeping the application up and running and performing at the highest levels possible.
Awesome. So let's dive into Islamic finance and your work with Back Islam, because we're gonna post an article that you wrote for us, and on top of that, so I've read the article. It's very interesting. So you said something about 71% of the Muslim population do not have a bank account, which is very, very interesting. And how do you think Mambu can help transform Bank Islam and make it more accessible to everyone?
I think there's a couple of drivers here to this, June. I think it's the expectation of customers, because if you think of actually the ability of customers access, there's a high propensity for mobile phone usage. Lots of people have access to the internet. People are digitally connected. For a lot of well-established banking organizations, though, the cost to serve to actually provide a capability through those channels may have been held up by historically their technology platforms and their systems and their ability to do that. I think what Bank Islam has done is very exciting. We've actually worked with them for over 18 months to get to this point. Was really about making sure they understood about what does that journey need to look like. How do they need to think a little bit differently about how they want to support the broader population? So I think very much that cultural alignment, that they understood that they actually needed to think differently if they were to support that part of the population. And I think knowing that, then understanding their client, understanding the requirements, because Sharia banking is a little bit unique. It's just not your standard out of the box banking. There are obviously the requirements and the way we need to put that together, that we really relied on Bank Islam to work with us to also help educate us. But it's not something we're doing in isolation. We're actually working with a number of partners in the Middle East. We've recently signed 2 clients in Indonesia who are both Sharia banks as well. So it's something that we've actually invested quite a lot of time to really understand the market and understand how it is different, and ensure that we can provide our capability in a way which allows them to meet what they want to do in the market. And I think what we're seeing is there's a real trend across the region around Sharia banking. Recently in Indonesia, the government's come out and saying they want to set up a Sharia super bank or a mega bank to really, again, support the population in Indonesia as well. We're seeing a lot of digitization through the Middle East with a lot of our clients over there at the moment. So it's definitely a global trend that Sharia banking now really wants to step up and sort of align with a lot of the best practices that you see with sort of some of the digital banks that have been up and running in the world for a period of time, which I think is incredibly exciting, particularly for Asia Pacific, because it's such a big part of this region that for us, it's something that we're quite passionate about as well. We really want to work and really align with the clients to support that.
Awesome. So We were speaking earlier just now before the recording started about what an open banking looks like. So it's a bank that doesn't have any office space, right? Basically, it's all in the cloud. And then if you have a problem, you speak to someone on the phone. So there's a high level of trust. So are Asians open for this kind of banking, do you think?
Mm. I think Asia is a risk averse region, so they sometimes they're the first to adopt some things, and other times they're a fast follower. I think the exciting thing is that there's a lot of really well proven models around the world right now which show that it really works. I think ING is a really good example with their model down in Australia. If you look at the likes in Europe of N26, Monzo, Oak North, that they've moved away from the physical touch point, but you can still provide an incredibly high level of service and support through a digital touch point, whether it be over the phone, whether it be through web chat, or whether it be through the app. So I think the fundamentals are there. I think the other really encouraging sign, as I mentioned before, is that the digital interactions that people are very comfortable to do things on their device now. I mean, personally, I can't remember the last time I went to a physical bank branch, yet I can do everything I can over my phone. And I think the customers now have got a lot more comfortable that expectation, and rightly or wrongly, COVID has really driven that behavior as well, because, a lot of countries were they wanted to move away from cash almost overnight, and they wanted people to actually start using QR codes and digital engagement. So you've actually seen some other trends in the market which are really driving their behavior. Open banking, really, I would say digital banking is a better way to describe it than open banking. Open banking is, I guess, a protocol that organizations sign up to share data and share interaction. But I would say the drive of the digital interaction is really the digital banking. And I think what's really interesting is that you've had lots of new organizations coming into the space leading with digital, but now you're really seeing a lot of the well-established mature banks really drive digital as well. So, they know they have to maintain some sort of physical footprint, but they really are pushing and investing really heavily in digital technology.
Awesome. So what are some of Mambu's plans to expand in Asia Pacific? Because are you like very heavily invested in Malaysia and Singapore, or do you have work elsewhere?
So we actually have about 30 clients across 9 countries in Asia Pacific right now. Unfortunately for me, we've grown the team to about 50 people over the past sort of 2.5 years, and we expect to almost double the number of people on the ground in Asia Pacific in the next 12 to 18 months. So we're very, very committed to Asia Pacific as a region. We have been doing it sort of very centrally, sort of through Singapore and Sydney as 2 hubs. But more recently, we've just appointed a general manager in Vietnam, and who's on the ground. We're appointing a general manager in Indonesia who's on the ground. We are in the throes of appointing a general manager for Malaysia who will be on the ground. So we are actually now moving out to a sort of geographical expanse of our people to make sure we have more people on the ground in the markets that we're really passionate about and we really believe are going to be successful in the sort of next 12 to 24 months. Mambu as an organization globally, we're growing very quickly. We have about 500 of us in the business right now globally. We expect to grow to almost 1,000 people this year. So we really are investing both regionally and globally to support, one, the growth of our business, but 2, the expectations of our customers on how we support them and how we serve them.
Awesome. So what about the progress in Singapore and Malaysia in terms of digital banking revolution? Where do they stand in relation to other countries, especially in the global print?
Yeah, I think they're catching up very, very quickly. I mean, Singapore's very lucky. I mean, you have some very large banks there. DBS is one, which has been well known as one of the best digital banks in the world. So they have actually invested very heavily. So you're seeing a lot of the larger and established banks, particularly in Singapore, but then you've got the new digital banks coming, which were endorsed by MAS, as I said, not so long ago. I think Malaysia is now on a rapid catch up as well. So Bank Islam sort of leading the charge with the established banks. Digital licenses coming out sort of Q1 2021, so that's sort of happening as well. But I think then also we're starting to see, as I said, lots of activity. The Philippines, there's certainly, in a lot of other markets, there's a lot of wallets, and there's a lot of those sort of periphery digital banking capabilities, which are sort of quite common practice. But you're now really starting to see things like loan origination being digitized and a lot of other things happen as well. So I think it's really encouraging what we're seeing. I mean, even in markets like Australia, there's a lot of digital banks and sort of new players sort of coming into the market and trying to crack the market as well. So it's definitely something that's sort of right across the region. Whereas I think Europe was sort of one of the leaders. They've got some well-established digital banks that have been there for a while, such as sort of N26, New 10, Tandem Bank, which are in sort of a number of existing customers of the Mambu business as well.
Awesome. So this company has got a very interesting name, Mambu, Mamba. It's like a very like name. So maybe you said it was 500 people. So just a bit of brief background. So it started in Berlin 10 years ago.
Yeah. So as I said, it was started in Berlin 10 years ago, 3 founders. And again, as I talked about the philosophy, they wanted to make banking better. That's really the whole premise, and it still continues to be one of our core values right now, is that we might want to make banking better and make it more accessible, and that continues to be our theme. We really did start in that sort of microfinance, non-bank lending spaces, but we have certainly evolved now that we are supporting and helping both small and very large banks transform and move to sort of this much more cloud, rapid, flexible, scalable capability. So we really do continue to grow. As I said, we will double this year, and we continue to expect that to happen into 2020 to 2023. Invest very heavily in markets and grow our global footprint is really where we continue to go. And we really have a strong ecosystem approach. We work great. We have a number of global partners that we work with, that we will bring to the table and work with our clients. So we do believe we have quite a unique value proposition. And it's sort of aligned with us. It's meeting collaboratively our customers' expectations. We have quite a flexible business model on how we work and operate. Hence, we have such an incredibly diverse customer base already. We have about 300 deployments in 64 countries. So we have a very good global footprint, a very good understanding on what's happening and what the trends are, and look forward to what's going to be happening in the next few years.
Awesome. So your employees are mainly what, software engineers? Because I guess a lot of
it's an interesting mix. So probably about 50% of our team are engineers. So working very much on the underlying platform, and then in the regional areas, it's everything we can do to support the customer life cycle. So we develop centrally at our sort of 2 development hubs, but here within region, the team is every aspect of the customer touch point, whether it be from a marketing, delivery of the solution, ongoing technical support, and obviously the ancillary services that go with that. So it's quite a well-distributed model, and obviously we're very active, right? As in 64 countries, we're sort of quite active globally at the moment.
So just out of curiosity, how much is it to build a digital bank from?
That could be the $1 question or the $10 million question. Look, I think it's really driven by the end customer and what they want to do, because we see lots of different models. I mean, we see people that are just trying to solve for one particular problem, one particular use case. I want to launch a wallet, or I want to tackle SME lending, or I want to do buy now, pay later, is one particular style of customer. And then you've got another, which will be, I'm an existing bank and I want to transform and become more digitized. Or even those guys may want to launch a digital bank off to the side of their main brand. So it really is driven by a number of factors, and you can't really put a dollar figure on it, because it really comes down to, am I starting with net new technology? Am I integrating into existing? Do I want to build it all myself? And we see multiple different versions of that. So yeah, I'd love to just throw a number out there, June, but I think it's driven by a lot more. It would be irresponsible of me to do so.
No worries. So this is a privately held company, right, at the moment?
Yes, it is. Yeah, so I think we have aspirations as to, that eventually we would like to be a successful public organization as well. But no definitive plans at the moment, but we certainly are, I guess, on that trajectory. But what we're really focused on right now is continuing to come back to those core values about be a catalyst for change, really be a contributor to the digital banking wave that is going through both the world. And that's both with new players and with established banks as well. How do we support that? I think eventually we'll get to that point where our shareholders and our owners and our founders will sort of say, is this time for us to become a public organization? But no clearly defined plans at this stage.
Awesome. All right. With that, we'd like to thank you so much, Myles, for your time today. And we hope you really enjoy your 2 week stay in quarantine. And and we'll keep in touch.
Great. Thanks, June. Great chat.
Thank you.
Thanks. See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.